You got to be driven. And you know what the thing was though, I guess years later, and really sort of tapping into self, I did come to realize that I was in a lot of pain, and even from a very young age. And what I discovered was I actually wanted to be in the shoes of anyone else but myself. And so, and it's really like it's really emotional. Like it's that poor little girl. Like I hold her. I've done a lot of the inner child work and stuff, but yeah, just to be anyone else, because me as myself, I'd received enough messaging by that stage that I wasn't enough. And so I felt, I guess, to be playing somebody else, and when I landed the gig on Neighbours, it was like in this family, this, like this conventional family with the mum and the dad and the sisters and the brother and the dog and the home. It was a life that I'd never had.
Welcome to another episode of the Imperfectly Perfect podcast. With your host, Glenn Marsden, we go beyond the surface to share truths, journeys, and raw stories from some of the world's most prominent public figures. From entertainment and sports to corporate leaders, personal development experts, spiritual mentors, and leading medical and scientific professionals, each guest brings a powerful message of resilience and transformation. Subscribe to our new YouTube channel to stay updated on every episode as we continue our mission to change the narrative around mental health, one story at a time.
Everyone paints this narrative around who they think they see on screen, movies, the lot. Can you tell us a little bit about Stephanie behind the scenes and what actually eventuated for you to move into the entertainment industry to start with?
Okay, so based on the fact that you said Stephanie behind the scenes, shows me you grew up with me. Carla behind the scenes.
You know what I do need to say before we go on? The other day when we was talking on a call at the end of it, and I was like, "See you later, Stephanie," and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Carla."
I know, but I love that, because it's, sorry, I am sort of diverting a little bit, but it's like everyone, it happens every day, and it's such an honor actually to have been such a big part of people's lives and to have been a part of them growing up, and it's really, it lends itself to my work now, and it's beautiful. So it's really touching, and I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity to have been able to be that for people.
Well, it's been a huge show and a huge part of yours, but I suppose what got you into acting to start with? What took you down that lane?
Well, it was all I wanted to do from when I was a little girl. It was all I dreamt of. I would perform all the time at home and put on performances. Everybody would have to sit and watch me, and set up the stage, and I just sort of, that was all I wanted to do. I got myself into the theatre group when I was about 8 years old, and then when I was about 10 years old, I would sit there with the phone book, like the yellow pages or the white pages, and go through and look for casting agents and just call them up and ask them if I could have an audition. And so this was like 10 years old. And then I remember there was one woman, amazing woman, Dinah Mann, and she was in Elstonwick. I was on the other side of the city, and she said to me, yes, you can. So me being 10 years old, maybe, yeah, I was 10, jumped on 2 trains and went across town. My first audition. Like I didn't have a plan B. That was all I wanted. That was all I wanted to be. So yeah, when the dream was realized, it was mind blowing, but it was that sort of thing of kind of knew that it would happen, didn't know how it would happen, just knew it would. And I think my family were the ones that were like, wow, because I was always that little girl going, I'm going to be an actress.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But in saying that, you said that you didn't have a plan B at such a young age. So I think that's, first of all, impressive, knowing what you wanted, and you had that sense of knowing, which we're going to tap into that spiritual side shortly. But even when you said you got the yellow pages, the white pages, and you was looking in, that source of resilience to get started at such a young age, is that something that a lot of people still miss these days in getting in the entertainment industry? A lot of it is self-discipline, and you have to put yourself out there because things aren't just going to come to you.
Yeah. You got to be driven. And you know what the thing was, though, I guess years later, and really sort of tapping into self, I did come to realize that I was in a lot of pain, and even from a very young age. And what I discovered was I actually wanted to be in the shoes of anyone else but myself. And so, and it's really like it's really emotional. Like, it's that poor little girl. Like, I hold her. I've done a lot of the inner child work and stuff, but yeah, just to be anyone else, because me as myself, I'd received enough messaging by that stage that I wasn't enough. And so I felt, I guess, to be playing somebody else, and when I landed the gig on Neighbours, it was like in this family, this, like this conventional family with the mum and the dad and the sisters and the brother and the dog and the home. It was a life that I'd never had, and that in a sense made me feel whole. But yeah, there was a whole lot of revelations and epiphanies that happened for me when I really turned inward.
But to find that self, that's really a lot of awareness through going through that experience. And then on top of that, to be thrust into the limelight, like with the noise, with everything around, how did you maneuver your mental health, finding that awareness to really enable yourself to go deep within yourself, when on the external you was perpetuating to the world this character on a TV series with lights, camera, actions, event shows, everything?
Well, because for many, many years it was unconscious. I wasn't aware of it. My actions and my choices in life were indicative of the pain I was in. But at the time, I was having a great time. It was feeding the wounded self, and so yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I was suffering, but to me in those days it was kind of normal. That's just what happens. This is just normal. Wasn't until many years later that I discovered, when I was in all of my shit, that I was the common denominator. That I really discovered how unconsciously I was functioning through life. So.
Wow. See, I love this. And this is where it's going to change now, guys. So everybody knows the entertainment industry. Now we're going to go deep, because this is the talk that I love. So knowing that, and you said you were unconscious a lot of the times, for any of our listeners, and there's a lot of people that want to learn more about personal development and the way that it goes. I always say physical work, mental, emotional is hard. Spiritual work and working on yourself can get even tougher. So how do you even, or where do you begin?
Well, for me, it became this thing of these perpetuating cycles, these patterns, this pain I was in, these, just this discontent, like this searching externally all the time. It got to the point where I was, I guess, the universe, I was getting little taps and little opportunities to start listening. And it did become apparent that the pain of, in the words of Tony Robbins, the pain of staying the same was worse than the pain of change. And I mean, that I heard that come from him years ago, and it really resonated, right? And so then it became a thing of stopping, and I made a choice to start turning inward, because there were always synchronicities that were going on in my life, always synchronicities. And I always used to find them very entertaining, and it came to a point where I was like, I realized that I was to actually listen and act on stuff more than finding it entertaining, that they were actually breadcrumbs that were leading me somewhere. And so, I just started listening to this voice that was, the voice of the inner wisdom. It's a whisper. It's very soft and gentle and loving, which is why we're able to ignore it over the bombastic yelling of the ego, right? So it's why, we can easily ignore it.
Yeah.
But I decided that I needed to start listening to this, I was continually getting these opportunities, and I wanted change. And so things were just sort of falling in, and I made this choice to, okay, I took hiatus from relationships because I was just, as I said, there's just this pattern behavior and choices and things, and decided to start journeying inward and listening to the voice. And when I did, the signs were just coming down fully, and they were so powerful and leading me and guiding me to the next place, the next place, the next place. And it was undeniable that I was on the right track. Even from, there was this one day that I started listening to podcasts because I realized that what I needed was self-love, because, I discovered the depth of my loathing, which was really sad. And so I started listening to a podcast. I found a great podcast on self-love. And so I plugged myself in and I started walking, and I would walk every day. And I was walking along the beach, and this woman in my ear was talking about how cathartic it is to walk along the beach. And I was like, I saw it as a sign.
Go
I'm
figure.
like, oh, this is cool. This is the sign. I'm on the right track. And then I sort of held my hand up in gratitude and said, could I have another sign, please? Just to make sure, right? So kept walking, and got to this point in the road where every single day I would take the right-hand side. And so I ventured off down the right-hand side, and the voice said to me, go left. So I went, okay. So I backtracked, crossed the road back to that point, the fork, and went down the left-hand side of the road and the footpath. And I'm walking along, and the podcast is still playing, and the woman is talking, and then she says, I hear, love yourself. And at exactly that very same moment, I look at the ground, I look at the concrete, and I stumble and stop at the words engraved in the concrete, love yourself. Same time, right? And I was just like, holy moly, this is incredible. And my it's probably a bit more, I was blown away, right? And I was going to swear, but I chose not to. So that was the sign. This was this next sign that I'd asked for, and I took a photo of it because it was just absolutely incredible. So much so that I'm like, this is the track. I need to work with this woman. She was American. So I got home and I did my research, and I found her, and I got in contact with them, and she has the Path of Self-Love School. And so I enrolled immediately and started training to ingest the medicine of self-love, but to also become a self-love coach, because then we sort of venture into purpose. I knew that this profile was much bigger than me. And this became apparent very early on in the piece. But the question was, what is it about? What am I to do with this? And I knew how I could impact people's lives at a very early stage of it. But it was becoming more and more important to me. And the messages I'd get, the fan mail, just the feedback was, people were really touched by the connection, because I'm all about connection. I love connection. And this position within society really gave me an opportunity to connect with people, and also a responsibility. Like with this profile comes responsibility. And so really tapping into that. So I discovered very quickly after that moment, and started ingesting the medicine, which was filling the voids that I'd stuffed, the gaping love cracks, right? I would stuff them with people, parties, places, everything external. And embarking on this journey, I was ingesting that medicine. And as you say, it was brutal. Like this, like turning inward, it's not easy, and you understand why it's called the road less traveled. But it's so completely worth it, because I started stuffing these wounds with self-love instead of everything external. So then I was like, this is incredible. This is powerful. And this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to share. This is what I'm here to help people through, because we are all, to some degree, we are the walking wounded, and we are to be in service to each other in this world. And in the words of Ram Dass, we're all just walking each other home. And this is how I can be this. So this has been so important to me and purposeful. And this is how I live my life. And it's so fulfilling. It's more fulfilling than anything else.
I can tell though, because the energy just exudes. So people listening on the podcast, you need to watch the YouTube version too, just to see, because my journey is very similar. And it's like you become this childlike because you found something that's like, oh my God, if I'd have known this a lot earlier. But I want to touch base on that inner voice, because my friend who's very, very spiritual, he sent me a meme once, and it was basically like, say God or whoever you want to say, coming down on a red carpet and literally speaking, and is going, Glenn, that's what you're expecting. The inner voice is like a silent little voice, and Glenn's expecting like this whole shebang going, I'm not hearing anything, I'm not seeing anything. But so how do you, and again, it's that, I'm going to go deeper, because it's like, okay, so you've got this huge show, you've got this platform, you've got all this, you've got so much noise going on. When you draw it to self and awareness, maybe meditation, I can only assume, and I don't know, that your brain is running on overdrive with scripting, with learning lines, with this, with that, with that. How do you center yourself?
Well, back in the day, this was before I'd started meditation. I will say I grew up with my mum, who is a very spiritual woman. And so that, spirituality was always a part of my upbringing, the esoteric. But I never, because it was so normal in my life, I was, I kind of rejected it. So in terms of stillness and quietening the mind, I didn't have that for many, many years. So, but I did have an incredible ability for an incredible memory. And so in terms of, and I was also, because I was so devoted, dedicated to the work, to the craft, I was committed. Every Sunday I would sit there and I would do my prep for work, and I would do, I'd sit there for 4 hours every Sunday and do my prep for the week. And then and that was a discipline, and it held me in good stead, and I loved it. So every other, for the rest of the time though, it was parties and noise and and I just allowed that, right? But it wasn't until I'd left the show in 2010, and then I returned in 2013 just for a guestie, and then because they use Steph as a vehicle for these, conditions, and to raise awareness for things. Anyway, I came back in 2018. So 2015 returned, 2018 came back. And by this stage, I had started meditating, and I had started centering self, and I had started needing that quiet stillness. And so, when I found this mentor was when I really started meditating. And so, it was very interesting coming back and being now, because it was like, 15 years later or 16 years later, and I was now one of the grown-ups in there, and I was watching everybody else, and I'd been everybody else, all the youngsters. I'd been them. Yeah. I'd been in their shoes. I could see myself in all of them, but I was now the observer, because even though it was kind of early on my journey inward, I was becoming more an observer of myself as well. And so, when you become the observer, you sort of gives you that opportunity to get more still and more quiet. So,
wow. So I suppose I want to touch base on a little bit that was brought up in your bio, in terms of this whole entertainment industry and where you are now. When you went back 15 years later, what did you notice predominantly the difference being? Because as we know, in entertainment, there's the superficial part of it. Going in as someone older, wiser, what would you say to any audience members that are on that part of the journey? And hey, look, we can only talk from a personal experience. You went through that part and you said it was detrimental to you. So as an older and wiser lady, what would you say to anyone going into that industry?
To know thyself, to really, if I could give myself any advice, it would have been to embark. In one sense, I had to go through what I had to go through to be who I am today.
Mm.
But I also believe that our greatest superpower is to know thyself, self-awareness, and to be able to, cultivate this relationship to self so that one, you can handle the rejections that the industry is notorious for, the auditioning and the getting so close and then bombing out. So being able to hold yourself and use that as a learning experience every time and take it into the next audition, but also to be able to hold yourself when you experience the wins, because when you win an audition, a role, you have so much wind blown up your ass that you can lose yourself in that. And then and then if you don't even have a grip on who you are to begin with, that becomes really messy. And that's what happened for me. But then there's always going to be a crash, like either professionally, personally. Life's going to find a way to bring us to our knees. And so to know thyself, to know how you show up, to have views, and self-awareness is it's essential, it's crucial.
So what would you say, and I ask this to every person that comes on the show, through everything that you've learned, what does being imperfectly perfect mean to you?
Imperfectly perfect means to me acceptance of self and where I'm at, and I think being present in each moment, but trying because it's not always easy to accept yourself, but you can still be a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. And so it's the acceptance of that, I think, and just always being open to not knowing what you don't know and being open to learn more. I mean, I am just this perpetual student of life. I just love absorbing the knowledge and excited because I have a whole lifetime to go.
And I think that what you touched on there, it is when you go on this journey, isn't it? You just lead by humility, because we don't know what we don't know. But I suppose you now have moved into this realm. Can you just take us a little bit deeper about, like, you're working with a lot of people internationally, or is it predominantly in Australia? Anybody can get hold of you, and tell us a little bit more about what you do, because I spoke in your bio about taking people through how to tap into that inner voice, but it's always better to come from the person who does it because of the passion and energy behind it.
Yeah. Well, I think that, so many of us are walking around wounded and settling and unconscious and just repeating these cycles in life and seeing that as normal. And that's my lot in life, and not dreaming and not, just staying on this one level and repeating these cycles because you're not aware of what's going on. So when I'm working with people, it's about bringing awareness, identifying the blocks, because we're stuck in areas, right? And so it's about getting unstuck, identifying the blocks, and then, like, you can't heal what you can't see. So the first thing is to be able to see it. And then, it's about forgiving of self for the choices that you've made, because it can be more difficult to forgive ourselves than it can be to forgive someone else that's done the worst things to us. We can really own worst enemy. So it's about that, and then it's about empowering with the knowledge of things like self-responsibility, like take responsibility for the ways that you show up in every situation, in every moment, because it doesn't matter what someone has done to you. It's how you respond to this. And when you're doing the work, you become responsive rather than reactive, because you realize you have these choices. And it's empowering when you realize that it's my choice how I respond to this situation here. Because so again, unconsciously we give all our power to somebody, and we're caught up in the blame game, and they did this, so I'm going to be like this. When you just flip that and you go, yeah, well, they did this, and so as you come to know thyself, you can also know others as well. So you're able to see what is going on for them, because hurt people. People that do this to you, they can't be happy and healthy, like it doesn't work like that. So with that awareness, you can choose how you respond to this. And also then it's about how that's going to make you feel, like how the frequency that you're vibrating on. And speaking to somebody violently or something, like, does that make you actually, how does that feel in your body? How is that restful for you mentally? Is it? And it's not. Like well, for me, it's not. And so being able to take your power back through responsibility, that's a big one, is really empowering. So it's about showing people how to do that, and that's through disciplines and awareness and exercises and tools. So it's so freeing. It opens you up to living a life, creating a life that is harmonious and connected to your joy. Like, you can tap into that instead of, someone's run off with my joy, I can't be happy because they've done that. Like, no, you cultivate this connection. It's always available to you. And I think this is where people fall short, is it's off in the external, but it's not. So helping people to realize this is,
it is. The energy is just insane, because it's everything that I've been through. I just feel everything that you're saying. I'm going, yep, went through that. And you're just like, oh my God, when you meet people, it's like you can chat like you've known each other for ages, because you're on that different frequency. There's no airs and graces. There's no compete, compare, judge. There's none of that. It's just like, you've got to keep chipping away, haven't you? And that's why I say it is the hardest thing, because you literally have to let go of everything you thought was right when it's wrong. And they often say the people that you attract in this habitual cycle, these patterns, are a reflection of something that's going on inside of you as well. Now, that's quite hard when someone's attacking you, because you're like, I don't normally attack people. But then you have to try and subconsciously tap in and go, well, what is it and why? Oh, this is a test. So I see things as tests now and go, okay, that's why they keep showing up.
Absolutely. But you know what happens, and I can speak to that too, because you would try and you'd want to change them, right? You'd want to make them fit, but with this awareness that you cultivate, you go, okay, so where I used to try and mold myself even to make this work with this person who's treating me so badly, how do they fit in my life? Like, how do, do I want that in my life? And when you start valuing yourself and the energy that you allow in, and knowing that not everybody is deserving of your energy, that's where you also can measure the growth as well, because you can go, I used to let that person in because I felt that I deserved that, in some way. I wouldn't go, oh, I deserve this, so I'm going to let it. You would try and find ways to make it fit into your life, because subconsciously you thought that was the best you were going to get, or that was okay that people treat you like that, because of the lack of self-worth in yourself.
I
So
think we go on. Sorry, I thought you were finished then. Go on.
no,
Sorry.
no,
Oh.
no, I'm done. I think I got a bit lost, and I had something really powerful coming through, and then it kind of petered out a little bit. But yeah, go on.
It'll flow. I'm going to ask you because again, it's attesting to this. Angelica Bridges, who I built a great friendship in LA with, she said something to me that was so profound. It's like, if you continuous walking on a righteous path, you know in your heart that you're doing the right thing. When people go low, you go high. And that's how you keep leading by humility, keep walking. So what's the best piece of advice or wisdom that you've been given?
Oh, it is. I think it comes back to that know thyself, like, like really have this awareness around yourself and those things that you do settle for, and make choices based on that. Uh, that's one of the most important things, I think, because when you do know how you function when you've been in your dysfunction and stuff, like say, being able to notice when you're wobbly and you fall off track, because I'm not here saying I've got it all worked out. Like, I'm still human and still wobble and still fall, but having that awareness to be able to get myself back on track, step back into alignment, and all of this comes from self-observation, and like, if I'm comparing myself to someone, instead of getting caught up in that comparison, which is the ultimate thief of joy, there's that mechanism within me that says, hang on, you are, look at what you're doing here. And so it creates that space between you and it, and you're not identifying with this person that you feel is less than someone else.
Yeah. I think that's when you also, when they start saying, like, when you move into the spirit, you get the discernment and you start learning about the ego and that comparison thing. I think I always say to people that comparison, I said, this is why I love IPC, talking to people in entertainment, sports, corporate, that we often have this narrative about, and go, you know what, if we actually knew what they had gone through, you wouldn't compare. You'd be clapping the loudest, because what your success might be, you might not have reached yours yet, but it's coming. Somebody might have got it earlier, but yeah, we don't know what went on in their earlier life, trauma, whatever. And then you'll be clapping the loudest. And then you start removing that judgment and that comparing, because you're like, oh, well, would you have wanted to step into my shoes whilst I was going through this to get to this part? Maybe not. But I'm going to finish it and say, Les Brown once said, the story you were sat on, somebody out there is waiting to hear. What are your hopes for what you're doing now, platform wise? Because I know you're here to help people, but I know when you step into the spiritual realm, they often say, go bigger or go home, don't they? Go, like, think of your goals, think of your dreams, and then accentuate them, go even bigger. So how many people are you wanting to impact, or what is your goal for it all?
Oh my gosh. I just, you say you want to impact everyone in the world, but you don't. It's, I'm not trying to reach everyone. It's about those that are aligned, those that are awakened and ready to, and that resonate with me. I mean, you and I could be saying the same thing, and people don't resonate with me, but they do you, like, we're tribe, and we're here to help with this evolution of consciousn's, and for people to be these light, to be the light for people. So it's, I'm honored to be here for those that resonate with my voice, the message that I'm channeling, because it's not about me either. It's just like, I've been chosen, and I'm doing the work. And so like, as many as
Well, you're getting the downloads. I can't even speak. You're getting the downloads, and I love that, because that's something that I keep on. I get words to the front of my head, and I tell people, and then they confirm them. but I have to learn not to go in my logic, because that's the ego. And every time something comes up, I'm like, no, no, no. So if I message you in a couple of days and say, oh, this was coming through, you'll have to confirm. Like, but
I'd love to say something to you when you said discernment before. Like, I was in meditation last year, and I was in a situation, and I got the download. I got the word discernment, and I had attributed that to somebody else and their experiences of what they were going through at the time. And even though with all of the stuff I've learned about self-responsibility and showing up, and those who blame, like it's where they're at to be blaming others. And I thought this message was for somebody else. And so I relayed it to this other person. I then had more experiences with this person, and actually it was like a sledgehammer came and smashed me, because that message, that word discernment, was for me about that person. Right?
wow.
And it was so powerful. And I'd said, I just get discernment, and I'd given my reasons for why and what I thought it was about. And I'd explained it to this person. It was for me. So you do still have these moments of lapse when you get caught up in situations. But that was a powerful reminder.
That's literally a slap in the face. Wow. But we learn, yeah. Don't we? We learn, don't we? Well, where can people find out more information about you, your website? Where can people find out about coaching with you?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, my website's under construction at the moment. We're sort of going through a bit of an upgrade, which is love it. But so at this point, sort of just through Instagram, because contact me through Instagram, Carla Bonner 3, just for the time being. But I'd love to have the conversation with anybody that's actually ready to do the work, is ready to, make that commitment to self, because it's really, there's this weird thing where we'll commit to other things before we commit to ourselves and our own, and our own growth. So I don't work with everyone. Like, I do get a lot of inquiries, and it's not fluff, and it's not flaky, and it's not for the lighthearted. It's the real work. It's life inventory, and it's dark night of the soul stuff. But I'm here to hold, support, reflect, and would love to work with those who are really sincerely ready to turn inward. So
basically, guys, she's going to say she's not here to be your best friend, because this is one of the hardest things you are ever going to have to go through. She's going to guide you, and I can only say it will be one of the best things that you've ever done, because even though I feel that I've come to the other side more, it's still a work in progress, isn't it? So I think that is the discernment as well. When you start noticing people calling themselves experts, and you're like, there's no room for growth if you're calling yourself an expert. So you've still got continual growth, especially on this path. So guys, you need to touch base with Carla and find out more information. So see, that's because I did grow, so I'm going to edit these little pieces out,
Yes, that's great. I was going to say something to that. Now that you've said you're going to edit it. What was it? You'd said, no, sorry, it's gone. Go
on. Well, guys, make sure that you find out all the information for Carla. I'm going to place, I'll edit that part as well. I'm going to get all the links up where you can find her. But remember, the main thing about Imperfectly Perfect campaign is keep having the hard conversations, because it is the hard conversations that save lives.
That's right. Yes. And that's what I was going to say, was about that piece of I'm not an expert, right? So what I've been given the opportunity to do is share what I've been through, how I've overcome, and that will be tools for other people, and, as they say, a survival guide for others, how we've overcome. And once we do step into that space, then we can be that for others. So we need more people to be stepping up and stepping into who they're here to be. what they're here to do.
Well, I think this is the time, isn't it now? Because even if people listen to the start of this podcast, when I started, the gradual growth to evolution of like self and awareness, like you can hear it. I never spoke about this, and it's come in, and people are like, wow, I'm really liking it more because there's the wisdom and people sharing this and the commonality. It's almost like we did touch base, and I'd message you maybe a year ago, maybe several months, and it was like, no, because obviously you don't see everything, but then all of a sudden there was that post on spirituality, and I reached out, and within a day you'd got back and we spoke, and you was like, well, I've been going through this journey, maybe it was meant to be. And that's the whole alignment thing. And I think what's happened in the world, there's so much things that are turning upside down and being exposed. And I think a lot of people are at that crossroad where people are finding this podcast, they're finding people like yourself who are, I won't say woke, because people do tend to make a joke of woke, but it is, your eyes are open, you're seeing that what we were indoctrinated in, what we've learned, is completely not the truth. And it's like, now you would like to join the rest of the people under a tree talking about life.
Yeah, that's right. I wish we had more time to keep, because there's so much more we can go into. But yeah, this has been great. Great.
Oh,
chat.
well, there can be a part 2, mate. No worries.
Yeah,
We can go
yeah.
deep. But guys,
Yeah.
I will place all the links on, and look at that. We finished at 4:44. That's 4:44. I just looked at the clock
The number
then.
of the divine feminine.
Exactly. Oh, you're into numbers as well. We could go on forever. But guys, make sure you find all the links. Keep having the hard conversations, because it is the hard conversations that saves lives.
Want to learn more about our work? Visit our official website and discover how one man, Glenn Marsden, redefined imperfection and built a global movement.